They were in a three week. I mean, we knew they were being 3 week. That's their call down there. Sorry. We had the alert that we wanted. Had the play. Chip called a great play. Got the alert we wanted. They reacted how we wanted. Tyler Lockett's open in the back of the end zone. We win the game if guy didn't jump up and tip the ball. Hats off to him. He made the play.
And that was Raiders quarterback Geno Smith. Immediately after the Raiders' sixth loss in 8 games this season, we're going to get into everything. By the way, welcome to Vegas Nation First and 10. Brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation and Station Casinos STN Sports. A gut-wrencher, another one for the Raiders today, 30-29 in overtime. The Raiders had a chance to kick the extra point with, about 20 seconds left in overtime. They decided to go for 2, which was obviously the right move. At 2-5, what the heck else are you going to do? But try to get the win. But they don't come up with the win in spite of everything kind of working out exactly how they had hoped, including a wide-open Tyler Lockett in the end zone. Geno Smith's pass gets knocked down at the line of scrimmage. It was all for naught. The Raiders lose 30-29. Some positives, without question. Brock Bowers had a fabulous game. Ashton Jeanty, despite the fact that I think he was underutilized again, had a nice game. But Geno Smith, I felt, played pretty well, especially in the fourth quarter and in overtime, outside of the pass that got batted down at the line of scrimmage. But it wasn't enough. The Raiders lose again and fall to 2-6. And Adam and I are going to talk about why that might not be the worst thing in the world, and how if you're going to lose and maintain your draft pick status, these are probably the best kind of losses to have.
Yeah, and I know people don't want to hear that and talk about it on the actual game night. We can talk about those things during the week for sure. But yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, at the end of the season, you'll look back and say, okay, that's a game that if the 2-point conversion is good, you probably lose about 4 or 5 draft spots because of that.
Right.
And if they would have made it, things could have changed the next couple of days. There might not have been as much considering selling at the trade deadline. You go into a Denver game where if you win that, all of a sudden you're right in the thick of the playoff race, but it's a short week on the road. So yeah, if that 2-point conversion is good, they win the game, things look a lot different potentially, but probably in the long run, not a whole lot changes. And so the huge picture, the 30,000 foot view, probably better for the Raiders in their future that they didn't get the 2-point conversion. But those are things for down the road.
It is, but I have to qualify that by saying this isn't, from my perspective, covering this team, this isn't just about losing to preserve a draft pick. It's also your young stars, guys like Brock Bowers and guys like Ashton Jeanty, and they're, in spite of the fact that the defense didn't play so well in the second half, that I thought there were some young players, Darian Porter, Tristan McCullough at safety, I thought played a pretty good game. Isaiah Pola-mao played a good game. Some of the young players playing really well, guys that are going to be potentially.
How'd Dante Thornton do?
Part of the future. Dante Thornton did not play today. He didn't dress out today. We're going to get into all that and the thought process behind that. But
that helps for the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't do everything all at once, and they are still trying to win games, and they needed to see what they have potentially in Tyler Lockett for this year, and that's the thing. Like, it's just when you're on, you can't just sell out and just say we're going to lose all these games. We're going to force the issue with players that aren't ready, and Dante Thornton is not ready right now.
Well, again, these are conversations we can have during the week and other times. I would just say, this is when we've talked in the past, and we've done it on this podcast, we've talked to the viewers, and they kind of get upset and say, well, about tanking and all these other kind of issues. And I've said my criticism is mostly the half, like you're dipping your foot half in the water. And I think that's what we're seeing again, right? It's, hey, we're seeing some younger guys. Let's see what they can do. Let's see how they can play. Let's look to the future a little bit where we're still trying to win. But let's bring in a Tyler Lockett to take reps away from a Dante Thornton, which just, in the grand scheme of things, again, I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to make Geno Smith more comfortable, trying to settle him down, trying to give him his good friend as a security blanket, and he got a guy wide open in the end zone, could have potentially won the game. But, that's the toe half in the water that I've had a problem with.
I understand where you're coming from, but, I think it's easy to say that when you're outside of the building. When you're talking about jobs being at stake and reputations being at stake and your livelihood and your peace of mind and all of those things, it's not as easy to say, like, let's just play Dante Thornton even though we clearly know that he's not ready.
That's the whole point. It's got to be an organizational commitment. It's got to be everyone has to be committed to it. And to your point, it's not how it is because everybody has agendas. Everybody has their own thing they're trying to do. The problem is when there's not an organizational push and an organizational commitment to something, then you get the foot half in the water. As I said, that's where they're at. That is the issue. I think there's multiple, and this is not just a criticism of the Raiders. It's a lot of teams that are in this same situation where, like, yes, you can say, it's easy to say, hey, we're looking to the future, we're playing for the future. It's harder to do it when that requires potentially not putting yourself in a position to win.
Very hard.
The best position to win each Sunday.
Extremely hard.
But that's why the entire organization has to be committed to something. And right now, like, there's not. And
I think there's plenty of time. I also think there's plenty of time. I keep saying that there's intersections are going to cross, if they haven't now already at 2-6, where you're gonna see the force feeding of a Dante Thornton out there, whether he deserves it or not, whether he's ready or not to go out there and and play over and over and over again. By the way, they did do that.
Right, they tried,
and it wasn't working for him. It wasn't working for them. And you also, there's always that possibility where you're going to crush somebody or you're going to lose that person. So you got to weigh that all into it. Like
by making them inactive.
Yeah, but
but you're right.
There's that's where communication comes into play, and if whether it's the general manager or Pete Carroll sitting you down and saying, hey, look, if you were a special teams player like an Alex Bachman or Jack Besh plays special teams, both of those guys have after today well over 70 plays on special teams. Dante Thornton has 0, so you're not going to contribute in any way. Because you don't play special teams, even though you're not going to play out. We're gonna go with Tyler Lockett in this game at your position. It's a little bit more complicated. I don't think that he's going to be any worse off for not playing in this game. That's just my humble opinion. I think there's plenty of time to get him back into the groove and back into things. But clearly, he and Jack Besh just aren't ready right now to contribute.
Definitely true.
As opposed to, when you think about some of the young stalwarts on this team that are going to be part of the future in a major way, that's Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, and both of those guys are clearly ready. And so that the overriding for me is that you got great games out of them, especially Brock Bowers. The fans were excited. You should have scored 30 points. You missed an extra point, or else you got 30 points. You missed 2 extra points, quite honestly, and obviously. And so there was a little bit of hope, a little bit of momentum built, offensively. You saw some things come to fruition offensively. The fans got a good show. Again, the young pillars that are going to be the young players that are going to be pillars down the road had really good games. So, and you lose and you maintain your drought status. We looked, they're at what, number 7 right now?
7th right now.
Yeah. So, those are all in the big scheme of things good for the Raiders. But let's talk about this.
Well, first of all, I'll just say I would agree. Like, they put out, they had a good performance. They, I think, played well on offense, which is something that they needed for the most part. I mean, it was some struggles early on for sure, but they were able to put up some points. They were able to score. They actually were able to get some stops on defense. Too many third and shorts. Once again, I think 4 third and ones that they had in the game. And then even when they did get third down stops, which wasn't very often, they gave up some 4th downs there. Well, but they did get an interception in the end zone to stop a 17-play drive. Like, I think there was a lot of positives. I think we both agree coming out of this game. Bottom line is they lost, which, again, we think is good for the future. A lot of fans are obviously upset about that, and it changes their perception the next couple of days potentially of where they are ahead of the trade deadline. But I think there was plenty of positive things in this game.
Yeah, there were, and the age-old problem for the Raiders, though, it never lines up. In the first half, I thought the defense played pretty well. They really, going into the fourth quarter, they had held the Jacksonville Jaguars to 9 points going into the fourth quarter, I believe, or somewhere along there. And the offense wasn't playing so good up until that point. And then it completely flipped from the fourth quarter into overtime. The Raiders score 3 touchdowns, I believe it was. I mean, anyway, Geno Smith's 9-9 in the fourth quarter. A couple of touchdown passes, one to Ashton, one to Brock Bowers, and then another touchdown in overtime. But as that's happening, then it flips on the defense. All of a sudden, Jacksonville is running it. They were tired, probably, or a little bit tired. There was some fatigue going on.
I would say definitely. I mean, what Jacksonville, I think, had the ball over 42 minutes.
Yeah.
Was that? I mean, so yeah, I would say they were clearly exhausted, and that's why also Jacksonville talked about strategically taking the ball first, but it's definitely part of why they took the ball first after having the Raiders worn down. Yeah, in overtime they took the ball first after winning the toss. That is something their analytics department talked about, but also at the same time, the Raiders have been on the field for so long. They've been on the field for another long drive right at the end of regulation. They wanted to take the ball and just run it, and what they did is try to run over and over. I think like 7 or 8 straight runs at least there on that drive in overtime, which did 2 things. One, it wore down the Raiders' defense, and 2, it killed the clock enough so the Raiders were kind of in a scramble mode a little bit coming down the field. Now, they scored, but it was pretty clear the Raiders' defense was worn down. The offense has to be on the field longer, and the defense can't allow these long drives. I mean, the one drive didn't result in points. They got an interception in the end zone, but 17 plays early in the game.
Yeah, exactly, because usually when you say, well, the defense was worn out, you put a lot of blame on the offense, and the offense did deserve a little bit of criticism for that. But as Adam said, you can't keep giving up these long drives. Yeah. If you want to be less tired and less fatigued out there, you got to start getting some 3-and-outs and get over onto the sideline and let Geno and Brock do those things. But again, the complementary football just wasn't there. It also wasn't there special teams wise. Again, and this was such a mixed bag for the Raiders special teams. You had Raheem Mostert, who goes for over 200 yards. In kickoff returns. Really had a fabulous day from kicking it off. But conversely, the Daniel Carlson on the opening kick, I don't think this led to any points, but it kind of set a tone for him, basically. Leaves it short of the landing zone, automatically gives the ball to for Jacksonville at the 40-yard line. You can't have that to start a game. Then he misses an extra point, which becomes a very important point throughout the game. And on top of that, the Raiders, when as Adam mentioned, Jacksonville elects to receive the opening kickoff in overtime. What happens? He kicks it right to the Jacksonville return man. Nice, easy, beautiful. Just drop it right into his arms, and that guy takes it 50-some-odd yards to set it up at the Raiders' 45, which gives Jacksonville a short field on their touchdown drive to start overtime. What the heck is going on with Raiders special teams, especially kick coverage and kicking the ball?
Yeah, you didn't even mention what I thought was maybe the most egregious was the Alex Bachman fair catching a ball at the 5-yard line. Now that might have gone out of bounds anyway, but
it's definitely heading out of bounds. I don't know if he just lost where he was.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened there.
Can't do that again. It might have gone out of bounds, and it might have just been pinned there anyway. It might not have mattered, but can't do it, and it's just something that you have to learn for the future too, or just don't do that, even if it is at the sideline. There was a lot, and I kind of bounced out, as you said. The return game was really good. Coverage was not as good. I think the first play of the game that you mentioned, not landing inside the 20, had to do with later in the game where they didn't want to try anything kind of tricky anymore.
Yeah.
Because Daniel Carlson almost had like one of the kicks of the year on the opening kick. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect, yes. Except that it landed at the 20-yard line in 3 inches instead of inside the 20-yard line. If it goes a couple more inches, the way it bounced, it would have been. It was playing complete havoc on the return.
For those of us who skipped rocks on water, when we were kids, it was exactly that. I mean, it was the perfect bounce to head over the return man's head.
It might have ended up being a live ball. It probably would have ended up being a live ball that the Raiders could have potentially scored a touchdown on.
Could have scored a touchdown. Could have knocked him down at the 5-yard line.
If it just got inside the 20-yard line,
and it missed it by
didn't.
This much.
Yeah, and those are the breaks. I mean, that is, as Geno Smith said about something else, that's football, bro. Sometimes you just those things happen, but then I think you don't want to be as tricky. You don't want to be as adventurous. Yeah. I think probably the coaches said, hey, let's just kick it off to them and go, and that's what ends up happening. That they don't cover well. The Jaguars weren't covering it well either, and as Pete Carroll said, it's a new world where now if a guy gets out to the 26-yard line, everybody's going crazy like they just won the game because you pin somebody at the 26, which is a very new world for kickoff coverage. So it wasn't good really on either side. But the Raiders had cleaned up their special teams the last couple of weeks, obviously an issue today. And we'll point out, Daniel Carlson's not going to make excuses. I will say, looked like a little bit of timing on the snap, which he said, no, that's just on me.
Yeah.
But also, if you go back and look, the field goal or the extra point team was out on the field a long time for the Brock Bowers review, which took forever, and then they went to commercial. It was like an extra long, almost a double review period. And they were just out there for a long time, which, again, can't make
You never
excuses.
know.
You got to
Yeah.
make the extra point. But that is just sometimes you look at reasons, reasons versus excuses. Like maybe that was part of the reason as well, that they were just out there for so long.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned the dude of the game today, even in a loss, and that's Brock Bowers. 2 games when he's been completely healthy. That was a season opener, and today, 17 catches, 200 and some odd yards between the 2 games. This is just a really good football player. He was the best football player on the field today, and is generally going to be one of the, if not the best player on the field. Pretty much every time he takes the field. That's how good this guy is. I've seen a lot of players, Adam, over the years in my sport, covering sports. This guy is the real deal. It's fun to be able to watch him. We cover him, and we don't root for anybody or anything like that. But there's many times where you're just going, holy cow, that guy is a good football player.
Yeah, made some great plays, and he's a matchup problem. You don't really know who to send out there and cover him, and they had trouble. I do think, Jacksonville's really, really good against the run. They gave up a couple runs early, and I thought they were basically daring the Raiders to try to challenge them in that way, and the Raiders were able to run, and then they said, you're not running anymore, and they shut it down for about 3 or 4 runs in a row. The Raiders just stopped. They said, okay, they're going to shut down the run. We're going to stop.
Got to keep running it. Got to keep running it.
And they just couldn't run it against them, and so then it was like, okay, well, now Brock Bowers is going to be open, and they fed him repeatedly. And even, there was a couple of just, I think, throws that would have turned into even bigger gains for Brock Bowers that he kind of bailed out Geno Smith on in the second half of making catches, but then wasn't able to turn them upfield and get more yards out of them. But the catch in the end zone was fantastic. He was just open.
The crosser
over and over
scored
again.
On the 25. That was an example.
27, I think.
27. Yeah, that's an example of if Geno can throw it where it's supposed to be, then Brock just takes it over there. They need more of that and less of the ones where Brock has to make spectacular plays.
Yeah.
Or
and then the play just ends right there because he has to fall down or make a great catch. I think Michael Mayer bailed him out on one too. But yeah, it's when the ball is placed right, and that's what the book on Geno has been in the past. It hasn't been this year, but in the past the accuracy was there, and then you can allow your receivers to turn those catches into bigger plays. Hasn't happened enough. Happened there with that Brock Bowers touchdown. They need more of that, and that certainly has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about what this loss might mean for the very immediate future, and we're literally talking about the next 48 hours or so, and how it might dictate some moves that the Raiders may or may not make.
You hate to lose like that, honestly, because he was open. That would have been a great celebration right there, a great team win, but the ball didn't bounce our way, and that's why you got to love football. You got to respect that ultimately. You can win, you can lose. Just keep fighting.
Welcome back to Vegas Nation, First and 10, brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos STN Sports. And that was Jacoby Myers, who may or may not have just played his last game with the Raiders. I know our Adam Hill asked Jacoby about that and whether it crossed his mind, and he wasn't ready to go there, so to speak.
And I can, I'll say that for if you did see the clip, he said, I don't like that question.
Yeah.
He did kind of laugh a little bit about it, but I basically asked him, I said, when you walked in today, knowing that the trade deadline is 2 days away, you've asked for a trade, you want to trade, you want to be gone. Was there any moment of hey, this could be my last game here? So I might not be able to come in here anymore, the same, park in the same place, walk in the same door, and come into the same locker room, step on the same field in front of the fans. I just asked if he thought about it at all, and he said, I don't like that question, I don't want to answer it, which is totally fair. We did talk afterwards just to clear that up, and he said,
he understands.
He said, look, I understand the question. He's like, I don't want to keep piling on this. I don't want to, after a loss, I don't want the quote circulating of, that's what I was thinking about.
Right.
I don't want that to be the story.
Right.
And that's totally fair.
Absolutely.
And he said, maybe if it would have won, it would have been a different, kind of response, but that's understandable. And I also think that he probably did think about those things. I'll just put words in his mouth. He probably did, think.
By the way, do you know who the wide receiver coach is for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Is it Edgar Bennett?
It would be Edgar Bennett. We talked, Adam and I, this week once Travis Hunter went down, who was being sort of groomed And he plays wide receiver and he plays all over, as Adam has pointed out. But lately, they've been really designating him as their primary slot wide receiver, which is the position that Jakobi Meyers plays. Obviously, Travis Hunter is injured, and it sounds like it could be a prolonged injury. And this is a team that now just went to 5-3. They're right in the thick of the playoff race in the AFC, and they're probably looking for some help right now at wide receiver. I think a Jakobi Meyers with this team in the running game, and Trevor Lawrence, if you protect him, he's been a decent, solid quarterback. What are your thoughts about maybe the possibility of the Jacksonville Jaguars saying, you know what, Edgar Bennett, our situation, the positional need, Jakobi wants to get traded, the Raiders are listening to offers. Maybe this is a move that we need to make if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, potentially. I think that's going to be one of the teams that are going to be calling and inquiring about Jakobi Meyers' availability. And in the end, the Raiders have to decide, do they want to hold on to? I mean, if we don't know. We don't think that there's going to be a long-term agreement after the season.
No.
We don't it's not Jakobi Meyers is not a player that we expect to be around past this year. Do the Raiders want to hold on to him potentially until the end of the season? See, it helps out. The young guy helps out, clear some attention away from Brock Bowers. Lets him, operate a little bit better. And maybe even with Ashton Jeanty, he's a really good blocker down the field. And maybe it helps with him. Maybe they want to hold on to them for that reason.
Ashton made some nice blocks.
Yeah.
Pass pro today.
Maybe they want to hold on to him for that reason. I don't know, but maybe they do want to hold on to him. It wouldn't be. I don't think it's because they want to try to still compete for a playoff race. It doesn't seem like that is really in the range of outcomes for this team necessarily. So, if they can get what they want, I'm sure that they'll trade him before Tuesday. But they might not get what they want. So, in that case, you just hold on to him, I guess, for the rest of the year and see how it plays out. But I think there's a better than not chance that he's traded before Tuesday. I think as long as there's a team that's interested, but
there will be a market for Jakobi Meyers.
The question should be.
There will be, and I'm hearing some things, and the question becomes, as Adam said, is that market compensation enough to sway the Raiders? Because what the Raiders are going to have to ask themselves is 9 more games of Jakobi worth more or less than what we're being offered? And I guess there has to be some sort of a cutoff. You could say, well, get whatever you can get, but I don't know. Like Adam said, for 9 games, if you could take some pressure off of Brock Bowers, if you could help continue the being that veteran presence that helps develop some of these younger wide receivers, even though I think that's completely overrated. Those guys are going to get wherever they're going to get on their own. If they want to watch Jakobi Meyers and Tyler Lockett do their thing, that's great. But I think it's the being somebody's role model in your position group to help younger players. I don't know. Do you see a whole lot of value in that? I think guys need to play. I think that's how they get better more than anything.
Yeah, and that's if you're here and if you have Jakobi Meyers and Tyler Lockett playing, you're not allowing snaps for the young guys. So that's true. I think it can be, and there's cases where it can't be. I mean, I think oftentimes you hear players that become veterans saying, I didn't know how valuable that was for me until now. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was really valuable to me. I think there's guys that do need it. There's guys that don't necessarily need it. There's guys that are better just figuring out on their own and failing and then figuring it out from there. So it just depends on the individual player, and that's part of team building and organizational building, where you have to decide how valuable certain guys are to the younger players and how much those certain younger players need that veteran. I mean, everybody's different. So, it's up to you to determine what your guys need.
Right. Before we get out of here, I did want to talk about some changes that were made defensively. We mentioned Darian Porter getting the start over Caillou Blue Kelly at one quarterback position. I thought he had a pretty decent game. For his second start of his career, was up there in tackles, and I thought acquitted himself fairly well in coverage. There were some mistakes, and there's some things to clean up, obviously. Greedy Vance, the undrafted free agent from USC, who didn't make the team, but he was on the practice squad. He got elevated on Saturday, and then got the nod on the active roster over Darnay Holmes. The veteran slot cornerback. Greedy was out there on the field. But I also thought what was really interesting was Tristan McCullough, who the Raiders picked off on waivers from the Philadelphia Eagles. Was probably at the very end of training camp, shortly, right before the season started. he was out on the field quite a bit, and I thought he played pretty well. He kept kind of crossing my vision, made a nice tackle for a loss, and just seemed like he knew what he was doing out there. So a different formation or a different look for the secondary. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's something you have to kind of go look and see what happens.
Yeah.
When you see the film and watch it back. But live, it looked like a lot of times they were pretty good. And again, I did talk to Isaiah Pola-mao quite a bit after the game, and
he had a good game too.
I thought he played pretty well. Obviously, he had the interception, but he just said, "Look, I think there's things to build on. I think there's positives that we had today. There's some things that you take away and say, hey, that was good." He said, but just obviously it wasn't, because
it wasn't
many times third downs they were really struggling. Fourth downs, I mean, a couple of times they got third down stops and they just went for a fourth down and got it there. And far too many times, once again, like Patrick Graham talked about earlier this week, 3rd and 1, and third and 1, quarterback sneak too easy. You can't allow that to happen. So
they got 2 on that.
I think all of them. I think Adam Butler's another guy up front who stood out today, having a pretty good game too. Right, he was flying around a little bit out there. So I think there was some good things that happened on defense. I think there's some players that acquitted themselves well, but as a whole, just it wasn't enough. So all of them have to take blame. I mean, you can look at certain individual players and say, oh, he had a good spot here, he made a good play here, but as a whole, just too often they were allowing long drives and too many mistakes on 2nd and 3rd downs that led to those drives continuing.
Yeah, and a big mistake by Devin White, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a tackle for loss by Isaiah, actually. A 4-yard loss. It would have set the Jaguars up with 2nd and 14 from the Raiders. It would have pushed them back to about the 44-yard line. Instead, there's kind of a lose your composure type of a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Now Jacksonville sets up 1st and 10 at the Raiders 30.
Yeah.
They go on to score a touchdown. You just can't, and that's a veteran. You just cannot do that. It's just needless and a lack of composure. And as a guy that's, kind of a veteran presence here and leader on the team, you just can't do that.
No, it was, as you said, a big moment. And that's one of the things, like, nobody was pointing fingers or saying, pointing at that play. It was just, in general, it was like critical mistakes, penalties, errors, mistakes,
missed PATs,
lack of. I just talk about the defense in particular, but penalties, lack of concentration, just a different mistake each time. It wasn't always the same mistake, but it was just an accumulation of different mistakes. Allowed a lot of these drives to continue for far too long. It's why they're on the field too much, why they wore down, and ultimately why they lost.
Such a fine line in the NFL, where just a couple of mistakes are going to be so detrimental. All right, so. Short week, no rest for the weary.
Get it easier. Now they go on the road and play Denver on Thursday.
Yeah, tough place to play, tough opponent, a physical opponent. This was a physical opponent, too. Jacksonville laid the wood today. So did the Raiders to some extent, but it was just when it counted, the Jacksonville Jaguars were just able to do what they wanted in the run game and kind of out-toughed, I thought, the Raiders. That's not a good feeling when a team can run the way they ran against the Raiders. A lot of missed tackles, too, by the way. That didn't help the defense as well. Short week. The Raiders go to Denver on Thursday to play the Broncos in a divisional game. We will be back on Wednesday to do Tuesday. We'll probably do a podcast on Tuesday. And then it's clearly our post-game podcast Thursday night from Denver. And we'll see if Jacoby Myers is still on the football team. Come Thursday night. Whatever happens, we'll have you covered over at Vegas Nation. By the way, our offer still stands. The next 3 months of a digital subscription to Vegas Nation can be had over at mylvrj.com/nation. 25 cents, 1 quarter for the next 3 months of a digital subscription to Vegas Nation. Take advantage of that. We want to thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts for all of your support. Thank you for all your likes, all of the word of mouth, all of the support. Don't forget to go to vegasnation.com to check out all of our articles, our photo essays, our videos, the podcast, all of that. We've got you covered 24/7 on Raiders coverage. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. Back at it early tomorrow as the Raiders get prepared for the Denver Broncos. We will see you guys in a couple of days.